Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. Welcome everybody to the Dukes of Gaming podcast. And of course, I'm your host, Thomas, the Duke of Anime, and it's good to be here another week with my fellow Dukes of Gaming to talk to you about video games. Of course, joining me, I have the Duke of Design. How are you doing, Ben?
I'm great. I'm very happy that Alfredo's back among the living.
Yes, yes,
Who was spreading
yes.
rumors that I was dead?
Oh, no one. Uh, Back among the living and here to talk with us about video games.
Excellent. And how are you doing, the aforementioned Duke of Education, Alfredo? How are you this week?
I'm good. I'm also glad that I'm back among the living and glad that I can play video games again. Life is a little less hectic, which is good.
I guess it's hard to play video games when you're undead. I guess that is
hmm
kind of hard. So good to have you
Yeah,
back.
easier than you would think, but yeah, still a little bit complicated.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Well, good to hear. Good to know. And this, of course, is the Deuce of Game podcast. We have to, of course, start a gaming podcast with what we've been playing. Ben, I want to start with you because you finished a certain game, correct?
I did. Yeah. Shortly after our last podcast, where I kvetched a little bit about the final hours of Elden Ring, I finished up Elden Ring and then um, backed up my save to the cloud and deleted the game off of my console.
It is
I had a
dumb.
really great time with the game. 95 hours it took me. Um, it really was starting to wear on me at the end, though. I will reiterate that. It definitely, I think, outstayed its welcome, in my opinion, just because there was a pretty drastic difficulty spike at the end. So I felt like I was hitting my head against the wall to a much greater degree than I was at the beginning of the game.
What
Um,
level were you when you finished?
I was pretty high level. I think I was close to level 150, if not,
Oh,
yeah, if not there.
it's like more than double my level right now.
Yeah, every
I'm a
level
small
was costing
fraction
me.
compared to you. Oh my
Right.
god.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
every level was costing me something like 150,000 runes at that point.
Jesus.
So yeah, I was up there, and I needed it too for some of those late game bosses. But yeah, really enjoyed it. Kind of took a week off of gaming after that. Watched some TV, and um, the Duke of Anime will appreciate this, but I got pretty into Berserk, which is a nutty anime.
Fitting.
But I'm yeah, exactly. Right after Elden Ring, I
Yeah.
jumped into the dark fantasy anime. Um, yeah, enjoying that as well.
Insane.
Excellent.
Insane that
Yeah.
you finished it and it took you 95 hours. Jesus. Definitely sounds like it's overstaying its welcome because even me, I'm playing it a lot more casually now where I'm starting to get I was telling you guys through our messages earlier that I'm starting with Elden Ring to get open world what's the word?
Fatigue,
Uh
Nauseous.
sorry?
Open world nausea.
Yeah.
nausea.
Basically, yeah. Like I need a little bit of a break because
Yep.
between that, Horizon, even though these games are amazing and really really fun, like having these 100-hour experiences and you just doing the same things over and over, it eventually does wear on me. And I thought I was closer to ending Elden Ring, but sounds like I'm not even halfway there, so don't know how I feel about that. Definitely fun though.
And I can second that because I started Elden Ring this week. And like I told you, I remember I think I said maybe 3 podcasts ago, this is going to be a summer game for me. But I looked at my PlayStation account and I had money. Like I looked in the PlayStation wall and I was like, oh, I have $180 in here. I need to use it. I'm gonna buy this game anyways. I might
How do
as
you
well
just
buy
have
it now.
$180 in your PlayStation account? What are
Apparently
you
I got
doing?
apparently I got a refund I wasn't aware of. And it was just sitting in
A
the
That's
refund
account.
a refund or three.
right.
Yeah, I never looked in my wallet because I guess it always defaults to my card. So I never even looked at my wallet. And I looked on the wall, I was like, oh. It's like when you find like $20 in your pocket before
Mhm.
you put them in the wash.
Only 180, totally normal.
Yeah, but you can only use it on video games.
Right.
So I'm
Which
like,
is
all
not a
right,
bad thing.
not a bad thing. So I was like, I'm gonna buy this game anyways. At most, I'm probably gonna save myself $20 if I wait. So you know what? Let me just buy it now. And when I played through the first level, I remember I played through the first level on Cole's, like we're share playing it or
Mhm.
whatever that's called. I remember I played through that and I was like, oh, this is just more Dark Souls. This is Dark Souls 4. And I put it down. I was like, I'm not gonna do this right now. I don't know. It hit different when I played it on my system with my created character. It just hit a lot different.
No lag, no you were able to play
No,
flawlessly.
no
Little
lag.
more flawless.
And for the first time in a Souls game, I played for 3 consecutive hours and did not die. Besides like the first time with the first thing where you
Mhm.
have to die and it's like the scripted death. After that, I'm just playing through and I'm like, "Oh, they did it. This is what I've always wanted from these games." Because I've never had a problem with like the combat of the Souls games. I always respect the combat. I love the character designs. Like everything about it literally is just the structure of the game that I've had a problem with. I'm one of the proponents of. I wish there was, if not an easy mode per se, but a way I can customize the difficulty. And this game actually lets you do that. Just it doesn't have a menu option to do that. And I love comparing this to a game like Horizon, for example, where Horizon, I can go in the menu options and tailor that game exactly how I want to play it, like perfection.
Mhm.
Elden Ring says if you want to play the game how you want to play it, you gotta go through our world. And I fucking love that. Like it is incredible just finding like a done like losing to Margaret the first time. I got destroyed the first time. And I was like, I'm probably not gonna go to him for another 3 or 4 hours. Then I stumble upon a dungeon and I go through the dungeon and I find this summon that allows me to poison anybody. And I'm like, okay. I go to fight Margaret the second time and I destroy him because once I put the summon on, it just wiped him clear. And I'm
Wait,
like,
what's that summon? I don't think I have that.
it's
Is
like
it
a
King Jelly?
no, it's not that one. Not it's
Okay,
not the one you
that's
get
what I
from
named it
Rodrika.
mine.
It's you have to get it in a dungeon.
Okay. I need to go searching for that
Yeah.
apparently.
And I beat him this, I think it was either the second or third time. And I was like, if I didn't stumble into this summon, I probably would be hitting my head on this thing. So the game literally rewarded me for going off and doing my own thing. And that's something that the other Souls games, all of them, lack. The only one I can say even comes kind of close is Demon Souls, because Demon Souls is more level-ish based. So like if you're struggling with a level, you just go switch to another part of the world. That's the closest. And I'm like, this game really did like this is what I've always wanted a Souls game to be. So I'm like 10 hours in now, having a really good time, and it's really making a case for my game of the year. So I'm
Oof.
happy all the Dukes recommended it. I was doubtful at first,
Mhm.
but the 97 on Metacritic definitely feels justified at this moment. Now, maybe when I get to Ben's point
Mhm.
where he's
Right.
95, he's literally 95 hours in, and it's like, ugh.
Yeah, we gotta see if it, can last the whole way through.
Yeah. And the one thing I will say before I let it go, this game is fucking beautiful. That I feel like that is kind of understated. Like I don't,
Remember how I said this game was ugly?
yeah,
When
you
when I
did.
was first giving a review, I was like, "This does not look good." Maybe I was a little harsh on it because I came from Horizon Forbidden West on the PS5, which looks stunning. It doesn't look as bad as I initially thought because I haven't played that game to compare it to. On its own, it looks pretty good.
I
It's
won't
no
lie.
Horizon, but pretty
I
good.
won't lie to you. And look, Horizon's my game of the year right now. I love Horizon. I think this game looks better than Horizon in like specific areas. Like when I look in the distance, even though Horizon has a pretty good draw distance, the draw distance in this game looks like a painting. Like you just stare at any part of the world, and I'm like, that looks like a painting.
Hmm.
And Horizon's kind of going for a more hyper realistic look, so it looks like a background wallpaper.
Hmm.
This looks like a piece of art in every, like, unless you're like in a dungeon or in like a cave. When you're just out in the open world, it's one of the best looking like art styles I've ever seen in a video game. So I just love this game so far. So
I can
I'll probably have more
definitely,
thoughts in the future. Go ahead.
yeah, I can definitely see that. For me, it's like it's so hard to compare them with Horizon because I feel like Horizon is so vivid in terms of like their color palette, and then Dark Souls or Elden Ring has a more, medieval kind of color palette, which is like
Mhm.
various grays, various, very dull colors, which works well with like the overall game's tone.
Yeah.
Um, but I myself prefer Horizons, you know, eight super HDR, whatever you want to call it.
Have you
uh,
made it to Kaled yet, Alfredo?
yes, I have.
Yeah. I think there's something to say for the environmental diversity in Elden Ring.
For
It's
sure.
yeah, it's pretty out there, but yeah, I largely agree. I mean, like I think Horizon Forbidden West. I haven't even played it, but it's clearly one of the best looking games that has ever been made. And Elden Ring is not. I mean, Elden Ring is a slightly better looking PlayStation 4 game when it's running on
Yeah.
Mhm.
PS5. Um, and From Software's games always had a little bit of rough around the edges kind of technical quality to them. Um, with the exception, I think, of Bloodborne, which is just the art style so sells that game that it doesn't matter what the technical state of it is. Um, Elden Ring is not quite the same. Elden Ring, because partially because of that environmental diversity, its peaks are very high and its valleys are much lower than a game like Bloodborne. It's
Mhm.
much less cohesive. Um, but yeah, I certainly can't say it's a bad looking game.
Yeah,
Wait,
that's why
did
I
I
say
hear
in
you?
key areas. Like in key
Yes.
areas, I
Yeah.
think it looks incredible. Obviously, it doesn't feel like it ever runs at like 60. Like I feel like whenever I'm like slashing something, I feel like the frame rate just feels weird whenever you're doing anything dynamic. Like even when you're walking up a ladder, like the frame rate just feels like it's not like fully in sync, like compared to something like Horizon where everything is just super
Mhm.
smooth.
For sure.
Like
It's definitely gotten better though with the patches. On day one, it was even more rough. Now it's
oof.
to the point where like, okay, it's part of Dark Souls. Like I kind of know, you have to press the button a little bit earlier, and you just get used to it the more you play it. And I feel like it lends itself to the gameplay of Elden Ring, uh, best basically. But I didn't want to gloss over what Ben said. Ben, why haven't you played Horizon? Like, what are you doing with your life? You were lost in Elden Ring, I'm guessing. Is that
there's
your
the
Yeah,
there's
excuse?
the real question. Alfredo's asking the
yeah.
real questions now.
No, that's pretty much it. Is that I when it came down to it, I chose Elden Ring and the Witch Queen to play.
Fair, fair, fair.
So Horizon just got the
Short
Shaft.
uh,
end of the stick
drew the
again.
short straw. I will get to Horizon, though I don't feel a burning desire to play it as of right now. I did finish Cyberpunk a couple weeks ago with my wife. We played through the main campaign together, but
Nice.
um, I missed a large portion of the side quests in the game because we were kind of going straight through the main narrative. So I'm going
There's
through
only
the
one in the game truly that to me like excels itself. Like everything else is kind of just fodder. There is one specific one I think everybody should play that like kind of like touches on religion that I thought was interesting. So if you ever find a chance to like maybe get to that one, that is the most fleshed out side quest in the whole game. The other ones are just disappointing to say the least. They're definitely not Witcher 3 level.
Hmm. Dang, I completely forgot about Cyberpunk. I need to put it on the backlog.
You never played it at all, right?
No, I was waiting for the upgrade, which is here now. But now I have all these open world games that I need to finish. I
right.
haven't even gotten Final
And
Fantasy Paradise, something about Paradise
Chaos.
Origin.
Final Fantasy Chaos. That's what we call
Yes,
it.
yeah. I haven't even gotten that, which I really, really want. That's got
Me
to be my
too.
next game.
Alfredo, we have to like tell me when you want to buy that. Like
Yeah,
I
we'll
feel like
play at
that
the same
game
time
deserves its flowers because
for sure.
I've heard the combat's really good. So
From the demos, combat is great. I'm just excited to get my hands on it. The story I heard is trash, but that's okay.
well, speaking of games that are not trash, what are some of the games you've been playing and streaming, Alfredo?
Or are they? I have been playing two games. One on stream, a game called Tunic, and one that I told you guys about, Triangle Strategy.
Yeah.
So I'll start with Triangle Strategy because this game is the reason why I have not finished Elden Ring yet. It's basically consumed my life because it's a classic, turn-based tactics RPG, which I previously spoke about like 2 or 3 weeks ago. But yeah, it's basically Final Fantasy's tactics and Fire Emblem combined into one. It takes parts of those and adds like a choice-based branching pathway kind of system to it. So last time I was talking about it, I was gushing about it, how the story comes full force, very political drama. It's like Game of Thrones kind of story and not so much fantasy based. So if you're looking for a Final Fantasy story, this really isn't it. It's more along the lines of a Fire Emblem Three Houses story where it's like all of these different kingdoms are coming together and they got all their problems.
No
All that
Moogles
to s
walking around, no chocobos, isn't
No
nothing like that.
chocobos. Yeah, 0 out of 10 because no chocobos. I don't think they have. You can have a horse, that's about it. That's about all you can ride in this game.
So really
Um,
realistic.
right, exactly. Super,
Gotcha.
super realistic, even though there's, like, magic and whatever, mages.
Hyper real. Got you.
But as far as this game, so I finally got to the final chapter of this game, which I was hoping I would beat. But honestly, I would have beat this game a long time ago if I was not playing on hard mode, and I'm way too stubborn because with every single chapter of this game that I play, the battles are so tough. Like I rarely beat a mission the first time I do it. It might take me like 2 or 3, maybe 4, so for some of the really hard ones in order to actually pass it. So, like, hard mode is no joke on this game, and I'm here for it because I love to be crushed. So, yeah, so I'm, like, 50 hours into this game because every time you play a mission, it's like it might take you, like, 2 hours to finish, like, a battle because I'm playing on hard. Would not be that.
Jesus.
Yeah. I actually stepped down on normal just to see, like, the difference, on, how it would be, and I was just breezing past everyone on normal, so I was like, "Yeah, no, I'm not doing this," and then I flipped back to hard mode and restarted it because it was too easy. But anyway, all that to say, the story, since I'm on the final chapter, so, like I said, political drama, the story is good, it's what's driving me forward, but after a certain point, I'm kind of getting it's kind of the Elden Ring problem that you're bringing, Ben, like, I'm kind of getting bored of the stereotypical combat, with the tactics because I feel like this game has overstayed its welcome a bit, and it's probably my own fault because I'm playing on hard and repeating some of the battles. So I wish there was a difficulty in between, but the story is bringing me back for more. And the more I play this game now in the final chapter, it's a little bit Game of Thrones story, little bit of, soap opera. I'm getting to the point where it's like, "Oh, wow, this is like a soap
That
opera-ish
sounds
story."
that sounds anime. Is it anime-ish?
I wouldn't say anime because
Really?
it's
Okay.
like it is more soap opera, and I can't really speak why. It's just like some of these twists are just like so far out of left field. You're like, "What?" And it's fun. It's really fun. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. Great game. I will say that this game is kind of showing its telltaleness of how the branching story paths work. And that all that to say that it kind of railroads you into, okay, you had your branching story path, this was your decision, but like let's bring you back into the main story and everyone meets in this middle main story section, and you continue from there. So it's a little bit of your actual choices don't matter, and what the choices actually do is that they allow you to get some certain characters. So depending on what path you take, you'll meet certain characters, you won't be able to get other characters, as opposed to the story being like, oh, okay, this is now your story because it's gonna railroad you into one. It's more about, okay, are you able to get this character or not? So unfortunately, that was what drew me to the game. But later on in the story, very, very late in the story, it starts to give you like three branching stories, which ultimately leads to its different endings. So I'm a little bit sour about that aspect, in that they didn't do kind of what Until Dawn does in giving you true different endings, like so many varied pathways. But hopefully, the next time they decide to make a game like this, they can fulfill all of those wishes. But still a good game. I'm excited to finish it. I'm a little salty also that there's like a golden path where you have to make very specific choices in order to unlock the true ending, which I definitely didn't do. So eventually I'll come back to this game and probably do that just to see. But I'm happy with the ending that I'm getting right now. So good
I
game, bad name, Triangle Strategy. That's that
I
one.
I do have a question.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
So you pride yourself the Duke of Education.
Of course.
That name is derived from the fact that you were playing Fire Emblem Three Houses when we
Yeah, gotta
first started
gotta
this
train my
podcast.
students. Much like this game, gotta train these students.
Right. Now, I consider Final Fantasy, I'm sorry, Fire Emblem Three Houses to me the best tactical game I've ever played.
Mhm.
Truth be told, like I played XCOM, I played the Mario game, like I played a bunch of them, and I'm like, this to me just is the best.
Mhm.
Do you consider Triangle Strategy on that level?
No, I do not. Fire Emblem
Okay.
is definitely miles above this game,
Okay.
and part of it is because of the story. Like with Fire Emblem, you get to know all of the characters on an individual basis, and like you get to see them grow and get to know each of their backstories. And with Triangle Strategy, the story isn't so much about the characters per se, it's more about the politics and what's
The
happening,
plot.
yeah,
So the characters
overarching.
are a means to an end,
Exactly,
essentially.
like, there are so many
Okay.
side characters that you can get, like, my favorite character is a mage called Narv that I got as a side character, but they pretend basically that he doesn't exist in the main plot, so, like, all of the cutscene,
Mm,
he isn't there, it's
okay.
just, like, your core, like, 7 characters, even though you might have 20 a roster of 20 different characters that you get throughout the story, only like 7 of them are important per the game. Like they'll be in all of the cutscenes. So it's a little bit disappointing that their stories don't get integrated into the main story, because they will do, oh, a new chapter is unlocked for Narv's backstory and you can view it, but it'll be like a little kind of like a filler episode that anime does, where it will be like, oh, this side character like is doing this, kind of deal, as opposed to him actually having actions and consequences in the main story.
That's disappointing because that sounds a lot like Octopath Traveler.
It's definitely better than Octopath
But
Traveler
no,
for
I
sure.
know, but it just seems like their games. I love Octopath Traveler. Like I love the combat system in that. The story was lacking. From what I can see, it seems like these games just struggle with that overall organicness. You
Yes,
know,
yeah.
like just everything coming together and being cohesive from a story standpoint.
I 100% agree. I hope they can get there with, but they definitely, like these stories, Octopath Travel and this one definitely isn't on the Final Fantasy story type level that you would expect.
Mhm.
And I'm hoping they can get there because the combat's there, the world is there, but like the interpersonal relationships and you actually caring about the characters is just not there.
Got you. No, that makes
But
sense. I'm
maybe one
hoping
day.
Look, we were saying I hope that they make an improvement with their next game before Triangle Strategy release, and it seems like they have made an improvement. Like this game seems like it's overall better. So hopefully
Mhm.
their next game is the one
Yeah, I'm
that hits
I'm
out the
I'm ready
park.
for it. I'm ready for it.
Me too.
But a game which does have a great protagonist is Tunic, which is my other game that I'm playing on stream. So I'm still not done this game, but I'm definitely, I think, halfway through. So Tunic is basically a Zelda clone, I would say, kind of in the realm of a Link Between Worlds kind of deal, or one of the, or Link's Awakening, like that. So you're basically a fox instead of Link, and you have your sword. You can get magic. You can have your shield. It's basically Zelda, and it's great. It constantly surprises me. It's really fun. One of the main mechanics of the game, I guess not a mechanic, but you don't know what you're doing. You don't know why you're there. You don't know why you're a fox with a sword. Like there's no when you're dropped into this world, it's just like, hey, explore. And eventually, like, you're just following markers around the world, and you go to a sign, and it has this secret language that you cannot read. So it's a bunch of little scribbles, basically, and you just follow the scribbles. You never know what they say. Sometimes it'll have like English text, sometimes, but you're just exploring the world. So it's very much like Ring in that, oh, like, here's this vast world, go explore it. But unlike Elden Ring, there is an overarching plot that you're supposed to figure out. So this game has basically manual pages. So, like, remember in PS1 and PS2 days where you had game manuals that tells you how to play the game? This game has that in game. So in
Huh.
game, you're basically trying to find these instruction manuals, like pages, a part of this game manual to figure out how to play the game. And the game manual is written in the weird language that you don't can't read at all. It's just scribbles, but it basically makes you figure out the game based off of the pictures that are in the book. So, like, it might have words and telling you what to do in this made up language, but the pictures might be like, oh, like your little fox might have like a question mark over his head, and he's looking at this, like a page with a number 24 on it, and you're like, oh, okay, maybe I need page 24 or something like that. And another page might have, a whole map, and then have like all of these different basically hints around it with little pictures just like guiding you to be like, oh, go this way, kind of deal. So I love it. It's much better than Elden Ring, with in that with Elden Ring you're just given, just explore, period. But with Tunic and this game manual, there's like little hints basically in the form of these pictures that you figure out, which I'm really, really enjoying about it. And there's hidden buttons that one time you'll get like a manual that'll be like, oh, hold this down. And then when you actually do it in game, you'll unlock like a new ability that you always had, but you never knew to hold it down for like 5 seconds or however long the manual says it, because it unlocks like a new game mechanic that you never knew you had, basically. So basically, this game's great. There's a lot of hidden stuff in there. It's basically Zelda. I'm really enjoying the very, very loose plot that it has. And yeah, it's super fun.
Isn't Link's hat called a tunic?
I have no idea. Even though
I
I have a
think
shield
it
right
is.
there and a hat, Zelda hat, I don't know anything about Zelda. You're asking
My
the
fault.
wrong person.
I thought we were talking to the Zelda expert.
Nope, nope, not me. I'm just a poser.
But yeah, I've looked at this game. I have it downloaded. Haven't played it yet, but
It's
you're
on Game Pass too.
I know, and it's like that is to me just perfect because
Mhm.
I don't think I would have bought this game. I played enough what Zeldavanias? Like I don't know like what
Sure, that's a word.
I mean, if good, yeah, Castlevania is a word, Metroidvania, Zeldavania. So, those type of like, top down, not platformers, but what would you even call those? It's
I
a
don't even
specific
know, to be
genre of
honest.
game though.
Yeah, it's like a
Because Death's
top.
Door is one of them.
Mhm.
Like Yeah, but those type of games like this, it seemed like it was doing a lot of things that were unique, especially with the map you were talking about, especially with the language thing. Like I really, and this game has been in development for a pretty long time too. It's, I think one person, right?
Yeah, made by a single person, which is incredibly impressive,
I
much like
always,
Undertale.
yeah, I always get really impressed by those type of games. You think of Stardew Valley, you think of like you said, even like The Witness, stuff
Mhm,
like that. I'm like, this is like having the idea that made by one person makes me respect this game even more, and I guess even give it kudos.
mhm.
Do you think this game stands up as a game? Does it feel like a game that was like, you can compare to some of the other great indie games that we've had?
I think so, honestly.
Cool.
I will say, like, this because the story is so loose, like, you're not here for the story like you would be for Undertale. Like, Undertale has the story, it has, like, the comic, has everything, a bunch of unique stuff. This feels much more like a true clone of literally Zelda. So,
Mhm.
like, everything in it has really been done before, truly. It's just in another setting is kind of where I'm resting with it. But it's still really, really fun, and the art is incredibly beautiful, the gameplay is solid, like, everything feels like the gameplay itself feels really, really tight. But yeah, it can definitely stand toe to toe with a lot of indie games, but I wouldn't give it innovation points. Aside from the manual, which is, like, a really cool experience and idea.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I think I will put some time out this week to play this because it sounds like a game that I really love. Just it's been like we said, Elden Ring's taking up a lot of time. It's just a lot of games out. I feel like we have an overabundance of games,
Mhm.
and part of that is games coming out on Game Pass like Tunic. We're playing Tunic on Game Pass for free. And the fact is, Sony has kind of not had this. They've not had a competitor to a service like Game Pass where we get games like Tunic
Yeah, what are they
until,
doing? When are they gonna come out with something?
yeah, when is it going to happen? Well, look no further. You go over to the PlayStation blog. I'm going to read to you just a couple words from the blog by Mr. Jim Ryan, the president and CEO of Sony Interactive Entertainment. This June, we're bringing together PlayStation Plus and PlayStation Now in an all new PlayStation Plus subscription service that provides more choice to customers across three membership tiers globally. Of course, the three membership tiers are PlayStation Plus Essential, which is the same old shit. PlayStation Plus Extra, which is a little bit more shit. You get 400 more games, PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. Um, and then of course you get PlayStation Plus Premium, which is the highest end tier, and you get 340 additional games, which include PlayStation 3 games by cloud streaming. And you get a whole bunch of games from PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, and PSP, which I'm excited for. And you also get time trials for games, and that's in the most expensive tier. What are our thoughts on this? We got this news and I was like, I can't wait to talk about it because there's a lot to get into. Why don't we start with Ben? What are your initial thoughts on this rebranded service?
We did speculate a little bit last episode, and I think the point that I was making about PlayStation not needing really to bark up the tree of day one first party releases is, I think it seems as though that they're in agreement with that idea. Um, this is about sweetening the pot for people who are already on the platform because they have no problem attracting people to the platform. Whereas Game Pass is about attracting people to the platform for first and foremost. Um, so I think this is a way to get recurrent spending from people who are already on PlayStation, and then the first party titles, which you'll still pay for, are the way that you attract people to PlayStation. But at first blush, this seems about right. I mean, it is disappointing that they weren't able to figure out how to get PS3 backwards compatibility. Um, you know, working so that we could have downloadable PS3 games, but it's not surprising to me. I hope that they'll eventually get that, but I'm not holding my breath for that at all. It's been a big bugbear for for Sony ever since the PlayStation 3 generation.
Mhm.
Um, I am curious about, before I make a broader point, I'm curious about the PlayStation, PS2, and PSP games, about whether or not there's going to be anything extra there. I think one of the best things about the Xbox this current generation is the enhancement, the like implicit enhancement of backwards compatible games, where they're just going to be much better than they were in most
Mhm.
cases. It's a fantastic service that they're just kind of baking into their ecosystem, and I I think the value add here for those early generation games, if there's no enhancement to them, is much less than it could be. Um, I think they would be talking about it if there were enhancements, so I'm expecting that there isn't anything there. Um, but there could be, and I feel like there really should be, and I feel like that would make this premium tier much more desirable than it is just at on face value.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Alfredo, what are your initial thoughts on this?
Yeah, I definitely agree with all of that. But I mean, to sum it up in a couple words, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed because I feel like they came out and were like, oh, this is the new PlayStation Plus. And that's all they really said. I feel like they didn't say enough. Yeah, they said, okay, you have your three different tiers. Your first tier is same as PlayStation Plus as it is. Second tier, you'll get like 300 games more. Last year you'll get 400 games more, and there's games like, oh, Death Stranding and Returnal is what we're going to have, but they didn't really say, okay, what are we looking at in terms of the cloud PS3 games? Like, what classics are you bringing? What are we looking at in terms of PS2 and PS1, even PS4 games? Like, what are we actually looking at here in terms of the service? And I know we could look at PS Plus or PS Now in terms of like, okay, what types of games are we looking at? And I have, and it's, as far as PS Plus goes, for me, it's not anything that would really draw me toward them like how Game Pass does. In terms of Game Pass, there's something always third party that is really being like, okay, this is really worth the 9.99 or the 14.99 that I'm paying for Game Pass. But for PS Plus, just looking at PS Now's catalog of games, they don't really have, oh, here's Tunic on day one. They don't really have these classic games that would really draw me in. Or maybe they do for new PS Plus and they just aren't saying it for some reason. But I feel like they would have said more if they had something more impressive to make it stand out. And I feel like they came out without really saying much, unfortunately.
I, for the most part, agree with both of you. The one thing that really struck me is whenever we hear about new like console announcements or service announcements, you always get the good information out first.
Mhm.
And then the bad information just trickles in afterwards. My main one I always think of is Nintendo Switch. Like we first see it and it looks like a thing of dreams, you know? And then you start getting, all right, like it's gonna be, what was it, 350 when it first came out. It's gonna you get all the negative news. Battery life's not the greatest in the world. Like you get all the negative news trickled in as we go on. I like this felt like a whole bunch of negative news to me. Like that's what it felt like. Like I can't say it's gonna be a bad service, and I can't say it's not gonna be, I can't say it's worse than Nintendo's service. They're giving you a lot, and I think the value is there, but I think like hyping this up as like Project Spartacus, I don't think did this any favors. 'Cause I think it
Yeah.
made it seem like it was gonna be more than just PlayStation Now being folded into PlayStation Plus at a better price?
I mean, honestly, I think we did it to ourselves because, PlayStation did come out and say, "Hey, this isn't a Game Pass," is what they did. This isn't like you're getting your day one games. You're not gonna get the new Horizon 3. You're not gonna get like our first party games day one and day like you do with Xbox. And this is not what it is. We're just
Mhm.
merging them together. But I feel like all of us in the gaming community was like, "Oh, what's PlayStation's answer to Xbox Game Pass gonna be, which is the best deal in gaming? Like, how are they gonna counter that?" And the answer kind of seems to be they're not. And I kind of feel like we overhyped the situation and we expected too much.
That's what typically happens. Yeah, that is exactly what happened in this situation. I don't know who coined the nickname Project Spartacus. I don't know if that was PlayStation or
Well,
that was a
it
media
is a code
creation.
name, and they didn't hype it. It was reporting that leaked the
Mhm.
Right.
existence
So
of
I,
it before they were ready to talk about it.
right. So I don't. Yeah. So I think your point, Alfredo, is absolutely correct. I think the gaming media took this and hyped it up to high heaven, and us as gamers got hyped as well. And it turned out to just be. I think it's going to be a really good value for if you already are in this ecosystem. PlayStation 3 cloud streaming is probably the most disappointing aspect of this because to me it really highlights the level of investment that Microsoft took like those years when they really got their backwards compatibility stuff straight. Like, and it must
Mhm.
have cost a lot of money. It must cost more money than it is even reported, because to me, like it's like I know you said, Ben, like it's unfortunate they couldn't have done it. It's like they could have done it. Like we see PlayStation 3 emulation. Like it's possible for them to do it. It's just not financially possible for them to do it. And I'm sure they could do it in terms of they could spend the money for it, but I don't think they see the return on investment
Yeah,
for it.
like with Microsoft, they can literally just throw money because
Right. Like who
they
knows if
have
this
it.
yeah, who knows if backwards compatibility made a profit for Microsoft? It doesn't matter because they have endless money. Well, PlayStation, they don't have endless cash to just spend on something like that. So while it would be a great service, it's not a surprise it's not here,
Mhm.
but it is kind of sad. And I have to say it. Why are there no Vita games here?
Touchpad,
Yeah.
uh, back touchpad. Um, they
All
could,
right.
but they could have everything that was on PlayStation TV could have been on here. So I
Yes.
agree. I agree with that. There should
Yeah.
be some Vita showing here.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be all the Vita games. It can be everything that was on PS TV that is compatible with that.
But
You should be
they
getting here.
might do what Nintendo did in that, later on they'll say, "Oh, here's PS Plus Plus like the next tier, and we're adding, Vita games," kind of like
I
how Nintendo did with Sega Genesis and
Yeah,
all of
yeah.
that.
I definitely. I think you could reasonably see more PSP games, more PS1 games, more PS2 games, and potentially Vita games someday, kind of
Yeah.
building out the back catalog as the years go on. Um, One point I do want to make is that PS Now has always been a really good value. I had it for a year last year. I didn't renew my subscription because I figured something like this was going to come out, and I wasn't using it actively because I buy a lot of games. If you don't buy a lot of games, like if you're buying a PS4 and you haven't had a game console before, or you've never had a PlayStation console before, I would absolutely recommend getting PS Now to anybody in that situation. So by proxy, I would definitely recommend getting this PS Plus subscription to anybody who doesn't have like a history with PlayStation consoles. And my gaming repertoire has not reached extensively back into the PS1 and PS2 and PSP catalog. So I'm pretty excited about
Absolutely.
that accessibility of those games. Um, 700. This is over 700 games in total. If you're talking about the premium tier, if you're just talking about the extra tier, it's 400 PS4 and PS5 games, which is a huge amount just on its own.
Yeah.
There are some really good. There's some trash in there for sure, and I think
Mhm.
they could do with a bit more curation. But there's some really good stuff in there, and just the sheer breadth of the catalog is way bigger than what Game Pass is offering. It's way bigger than what Nintendo Switch Online is offering. So kind of what I said before, looking at this subscription as like, this fills out your back catalog. You don't have to buy old games. You got a subscription for that. Just buy the new games that come out.
Mm.
So when you're on PlayStation, you've got your old games taken care of with your subscription, and you've got your new games that you purchase day and date. That seems like a pretty good recipe for me, at least in the short term, for PlayStation kind of maintaining its dominance.
Counterpoint though. So I definitely hear what you're saying in terms of, clearly 700 games is a lot more than what Xbox has, which I think is like Xbox Game Pass has over 300, so it's nearly double is what PlayStation is trying to do.
Game Pass advertises over 100.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't
really?
think it's
Okay.
I think it's like closer to 100.
Okay, so
Yeah.
vastly more.
Yeah.
But what I think might happen here is that with PlayStation, in terms of what they're pushing out for PlayStation Plus, it seems like they might be going the route of quantity over quality. Like with Xbox Game Pass, they have proven that we are getting these quality games. Like they're giving us very hyped games day one. We got Back for Blood, which was a super hyped game at the time. We got it day one. We're getting Tunic. Like we get games on there that are like, oh wow, like it's impressive that Xbox actually got this on here because like I was gonna buy it. And with PS Plus, I feel like just looking at the catalog for PS Now, I'm just looking at it and I'm like, okay, a lot of these games are like, I don't know, games I would never even heard of, games I'm not really interested in.
The
So
Dark Cloud 2s of the world, like
yeah.
yeah, like
If you
though
will.
we know what game I think we all have kind of an idea of what kind of games we're gonna see on this thing.
Mhm.
It's gonna be like games that you've seen before, like Blood Rain. I feel like you're going to get a lot of games like that. And I think that is a great thing. I think that's a benefit of the service.
Mhm.
You know.
Now, I will say, but PlayStation Now does have things like, God of War, Last of Us,
Mhm.
like PlayStation classics kind of deal. But they don't have, those day one things. And they definitely won't have first party PlayStation day one things ever. So I'm looking at that and also just the pricing and compared to what Game Pass Ultimate, which is caps out at $15 for both PC and PlayStation, compared with I think it's like $17.99 for the Ultimate or extras or whatever top tier it is, premium tier. There's too many tiers for PlayStation Plus. I feel like I would definitely, based off of the catalog so far, I would definitely tell somebody who wasn't, buying every game, the people who you're talking about. If you're not buying games, then this is a good pick. But I would say definitely get Game Pass over PS Plus Premium just because of the quality of games that are available, I guess.
But that's not the whole question. This is what I'm trying to stress. That's not the whole question. When you ask somebody when you recommend to somebody what console do you get, and you're factoring in the subscription services on both, but you're
Mhm,
also factoring in the holistic picture of who has the best exclusives, right?
mhm.
The conversation gets very different. Is PS Plus a good enough subscription so that you're not missing out that much while also getting the best first party games?
That's fair.
But I would argue that Game Pass, like, yes, the big value of Game Pass is you get those Xbox Day One games. But like we were talking about, Alfredo, like you got Tunic for free, right?
And I was gonna buy it.
Right, but you got it on Game Pass for free, and there are a lot of games like you described, Back for Blood, Outriders.
Guardians of Galaxy, not day
R-
one, but
Well, yeah, I'm saying like, but just even day one from the third parties. Like, I don't expect that to be this. And that's a big thing of Game Pass. Like, that's a big reason why. Like, so people literally look at their games on sale like, this is on sale for $15, but it might be free on Game Pass one day. I'm not like, I
Mhm.
don't expect this service to service that. If it does, I think it is a worthy competitor to Game Pass. But I don't expect, I feel like they would have really hyped that up that they would have third party partners.
They will.
You know,
They will. I'm certain of
to
that.
the
But they
same extent, like day
no.
one.
I don't think it will be to the same extent, though. You have to begin to ask the question, depending on the payouts, of course. If developers are willing to put their stuff on Game Pass, will they also be willing to put their stuff on PS Plus? And I think
Hmm.
if you're making the exposure argument that you would have made for Game Pass, I think the answer is yes. You want to get it just in front of as many people as possible. You want to take the payout up front, take the safe thing. It depends on what Sony's going to offer these developers to get games on the service. But
Yeah.
it's going to be apparent pretty quickly if Xbox is just offering a lot more for these things
Right.
than PlayStation is, and developers
Yeah.
are not willing to come out on PlayStation first. But I think you're also going to see something of a bidding war happening here where Xbox is going to start getting fewer day and date releases because Sony is going to start outbidding them on certain games. So you're going to have day and date releases for third party games on PlayStation, and you'll have day and date
Hmm.
releases for third party games on Xbox, and there will be a little bit of competition there where things will even out on the third party front. Unless Xbox is just throwing in that much more money. But
Right.
PlayStation has always been able to, well, not always, but let's say over the past few years has been able to pull some really good third party games to PS Now. They just haven't done any of the day and date stuff,
Right.
which I would expect you might see them chasing a little bit more. And the proof in the pudding for that is like we talked about last time. GTA San Andreas was one. No, sorry, GTA
Three,
Vice
3.
City.
right?
San
Yeah.
Andreas, GTA 3 was on PS Now day and date. Vice City is on there currently.
Hmm.
San Andreas was on Game Pass day and date. But then after that, what was it? What game was it?
Shadow Warrior.
Shadow Warrior.
Yeah.
Shadow Warrior 3 was available day and date.
That's a good point.
So
Very good point.
I think when the service actually comes out, we will see
Mhm.
more third party day and date releases. But yeah, I don't expect that it's gonna. I don't expect that it's ever going to be exactly to the scale that Game Pass is because the first party investment is not there, and that is a type of signal to developers anyway.
Yeah, it's interesting because you would assume that those day ones would only be a part of extra and premium, right?
Right.
So from a
Yeah,
value standpoint, it actually is a really good value. That's the
and
one that I want to stress the most.
yeah. One additional point to add to the value perspective. You talked about the price originally, Alfredo. Um, I wasn't able to find it quickly online. Can you buy a yearly subscription of Game Pass or Game Pass Ultimate?
That I don't know.
I don't
I
think so.
don't think.
Let me
Yeah, I
let
don't
me
think
check
you
that
I
out.
can.
don't think you can. So Game Pass to pay for a year of Game Pass basic is $120 because you're subscribing monthly. To pay
Mhm.
for a year of Game Pass is $180 at the monthly subscription. To pay for a year upfront on PS Plus is just $120 for the premium tier. So that's where we see the
Okay.
price competition actually starting to kick in there. And Jim Ryan talks about this in a gamesindustry.biz article. He says that either 2/3 or 3/4, I forget what he said, either 2/3 or 3/4 of PS Plus subscribers, the 50 million that are currently subscribed, pay yearly.
Mhm.
So that's where they're driving the competitive price.
Okay.
Mm,
That
That ma-
definitely makes sense. I
that
definitely
makes
pay
sense.
yearly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
I
have
will too. I will definitely pay yearly.
you can get a 6 month and a 12-month Game Pass Ultimate like card you can buy at like Target. But like, yeah, when you're just on their
There's no
website,
discount.
yeah, there's no there if there is, it's not easy to find.
Mhm.
So there you can obviously see that they want customers to go towards monthly. And
Right.
PlayStation fundamental like it the value difference is kind of crazy. Like it's honestly the starkest I've seen from a yearly to monthly like bill because just from the extra, it's 100 for the year and it's $15 a month for each month. I'm like, that's kind of crazy. Like
Yeah.
it's nearly double. And I've never seen that stark of a difference.
Mhm.
So that's interesting. They're going in that direction. I think it's obviously for money probably a lot profitable that way. So makes
Well,
sense.
it's I mean,
You want to
yeah,
lock people in.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. Think about why subscriptions are like so advantageous for these companies. It's because it's recurrent spending over time.
Mhm.
Like you keep the thing on, and if they can just get a lump sum to make you stay for the year, that think about how much longer you have to forget to cancel your subscription.
Exactly.
First of all, but also second, like it gives you that much longer to get used to it and not want to cancel it,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and it's just a higher payment upfront so that more people are making the cost benefit analysis of like, yeah, I could stay in for 3 months, but at that point, I might as well just double it and get a year. All right, I'll go for the year, and
Mhm.
I'll pay more than I otherwise would have.
Right. And then
Yeah.
you can be like me, and every time, I don't know, I don't even know. September, October, every time I'm shocked. Wait, my subscription's done, or it like recharged my card. Okay, it's fine, but like I wasn't ready for it.
So I guess it's safe to say we'll all have to upgrade to this service, but I think it's safe to say all of us are going to be on the premium plan. It's going to be
I
a lot of
I
you,
don't know. I'm
you debating
I'll
that?
probably
Okay.
stay on essentials. I'll see what you guys are saying. I'm not expecting it to be well, I'm not expecting it to be good, basically, or worth, me upgrading to premium. I'll probably definitely stay with Xbox Game Pass until I hear, oh, is it giving me like really good games like Xbox is giving me? I'll see how it goes.
Phil Spencer's like, you better not go over there. Well, speaking of disappointing news, we got some disappointing news about Breath of the Wild 2. Breath of the Wild 2 has been delayed, not to 2022. It was already delayed to 2022. 2023 springtime. I'm
It's a whole
heartbroken.
year.
I know Ben's more heartbroken than me, but I'm pretty heartbroken.
I'm fine. I don't need it.
This game was supposed to be my savior for the fantasy draft.
You trump
Sorry.
Damn it!
card.
Damn
Yeah,
it,
your trump
Nintendo.
card.
That 99 Metacritic.
Are you guys
God.
shocked though? Shocked that it was delayed?
I
I,
am.
I'm shocked that it
I
was delayed
absolutely
a
am.
whole year.
Yeah.
But like, are you shocked that it was delayed? Period.
Absolutely. Like
Really?
I think that because I guess it makes sense because the Switch does have a sizable amount of exclusives dropping this year. That's like they could enter, like it doesn't hurt them per se. They Pokemon Legends Arceus is probably gonna be their highest selling game of the year. So that's their big open world exclusive game that they can kind of tout.
Mhm.
So they're like, yeah, but the game's not ready, and I don't want to say that Elden Ring had a factor into it, but I
That's
think that
fair.
Breath of the
Maybe it
Wild
did.
2 is going to be actively compared to that game.
Hmm.
So I
I
think that
agree.
that game is going to need to be, from just a technical standpoint, no mistakes, because the first Breath of the Wild, like it took a very long time to make and it was worth every moment, to me at
Hmm.
least. So I think they want to give this the exact amount of time that it needs in the oven, not a moment too soon. So I think it's a good move for them. It doesn't hurt them at all, but it is heartbreaking for me and Ben.
Yeah, I'm
Will
completely
this
fine.
be a um release game for the Nintendo Switch Plus Extra Ultimate 2?
It's not like that's not like a My Hero Academia plus
Yeah,
ultra.
I'm trying to look to see what was the spam in between. It looks like Zelda Skyward Sword came out in 2011, and then Breath of the Wild came out in 2017. So that was about 6 years. And then somewhere in between there we had A Link Between Worlds, but I guess you don't really count that in terms of like
And I mean,
mainstay games,
this
Zelda games.
you had Link's Awakening in between. That kind of
Really?
serves as that little buffer Zelda game.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, it makes sense from a timeline
Well,
standpoint.
Link's Awakening it says was 2019.
That's
Oh,
like
you're saying in
that's gonna
between
be
now and
4 years in between that game and this game releasing,
mhm.
and that game was like 2 or 3 years from Breath of the Wild, right?
Yep, yep.
So yeah,
3
it's
years.
So it's tracking with their
Curious.
timeline. Like it looked like they were ahead of schedule, and then they pushed it back.
Yeah. I think you're exactly right. I think they saw Elden Ring came out and it was way more ambitious than what they had planned for Breath of the Wild 2, and they were like, we need to add more or something
I
like
don't know if
that.
it's add more, but I think like I don't think going into the forest and the game runs at 10 frames per second is acceptable. Like
Mhm.
I think that they're not gonna cut corners with this game.
I think it was a little bit of column A, column B because hey, I'm somebody who doesn't like Breath of the Wild 1. I didn't
Crucify
think
him.
I
There's a
didn't think it
word.
was
There's a
all that.
word.
Okay,
There's a
I
word. It
thought it
starts with a. It starts with a H. Ends with
look,
a R.
look, I thought that game was overhyped. I thought it was pretty empty. Compared to Elden Ring, I can say the exact opposite. Elden Ring, I think it does it right. Like there's something every turn. It feels like you're really truly exploring. And I feel like Breath of the Wild 2 might have been more of the same, where it might have been a little bit too empty for me. So I do think that they have to step it up in terms of 2, especially when compared to Elden Ring. And I think you're exactly right, Thomas, in that they have to step it up technically and in terms of what they can offer in a post Elden Ring open world game.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have development time to react to Elden
Yeah.
Ring. This game is not being delayed a year. This game was likely intended to come out at the end of this year, which means it's only being delayed 6 months. That's a polish phase.
Do you think though that they would I don't think they would push it or come out with it originally. I was thinking maybe Breath of the Wild 2 would come out like August because they have Pokemon like all the way in
Yeah,
holiday.
I would have said September.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I think we're in the same ballpark there,
Yeah.
a fall kind of release. But if we're talking about a March release next year, that's a 6 month difference.
Mhm.
I don't think it's out the run for this thing to get delayed again. Because it tracks with how Breath of the Wild 1 was looking, where I remember that game being announced and it got delayed so many times. And
Mhm.
I think that there's nothing like they're still selling Switches like hotcakes. So it's not like this game is like needed in terms of like, oh, we need to boost sales of the Switch. Like, no, like this game is just, it's just a cherry on top. So I think
Yep.
that they want this to be right.
Mhm.
And look, if that takes till Christmas of 2023, I'm all for it. I'll probably still be playing Elden Ring by that point. So so by the time it comes out, I'll be ready, but yeah, I'm disappointed, but I completely understand. And when good developers have to delay games,
Yeah.
hopefully it's to, like you said, really polish them and get them in that state where they need to be.
The only thing that might make me be like, "Oh, this is a good game. Let me be Zelda. I just want to be Zelda, okay?" And then I'll like the game. That's all you have to do, Nintendo.
Well, hopefully they're listening to this podcast. Hopefully they're taking. Maybe that's what they delayed it for. Like Alfredo, we need to put Zelda in the game for Alfredo. That's the
Mhm.
only way.
And while you're at it, give me a Frozen costume for her so I can be Elsa.
This is
And like
not
this,
Kingdom Hearts. Get out of here.
right?
Get out of here.
Hey, they should be
They're
pliable,
gonna
okay? They
as
should be
soon as she's
flexible.
playable, a title card, The Legend of Link. You know, just role
I'm
reversal.
giving them DLC opportunities here,
Yeah.
just ideas for free. You're welcome.
Oh my gosh. Look, I have a lot of confidence that this, because I mean, the side game, the Age of Calamity, I think
Mhm.
that's what the name is. I hope that's it.
Yeah.
That game, I watched like the YouTube like video of the story and everything. I'm like, they really did a good job fleshing out this world. Like this is the most fleshed out Zelda world, period. And so I'm very curious what
It-
they do with that.
was that the Musou game?
Yeah, the Muso game.
The
It had a
Hyrule
The
Warriors?
really
Samurai Warriors type.
yeah, I can't
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't say plot wise it's great, but I like what they did in building the world and building up those characters that you have to go find.
Yep.
Not going to spoil Breath of the Wild, but they did a really good job just boosting up characters you heard about and interacted with smallly in Breath of the Wild. So hopefully this game kind of builds on that, both those two games. But who knows? It's gonna be a long time till we see it. It's also gonna be a long time until we see another E3. Because unfortunately, E3 2022 has been officially canceled. Part
Sigh.
of me, part of me, the sigh,
Yeah, just
not even,
sigh.
not even sadness.
Just all of it.
I guess for me, like E3, it seems like was canceled in January because that's when I first heard about they were not doing a physical show. They were gonna try to make it a digital show. And when I saw that, I was like, "Oh yeah, no, that's not happening this year." Like it, like last year showed me that you really can't do that
Mm.
because the summer of gaming was trying to do that. Like everything is under this umbrella, and it just turned into people just releasing their, announcements when they wanted to at a certain point.
Mhm.
E3
Yeah.
was always that like umbrella,
Yeah.
and it feels like that's gone, and it feels like internet killed E3.
I maybe not internet, but more like COVID killed E3. Because as soon as, in-person live event like E3 was impossible to do or
Yeah, yeah,
not.
but in person is not. That's not really a factor anymore, though, because like you look at sporting events, they're packed. Like you
Mhm.
look at, I just went to a concert, packed. Like COVID, unfortunately, is not. Not unfortunately, but COVID is no longer a factor in terms of big events happening.
Oh, I meant it in terms of, like, when COVID was first starting to happen, and then I feel like
Oh,
when
okay,
that
okay,
started
I got
happening,
you.
E3 was already on the downhill,
Yeah.
and then COVID kind of accelerated that death,
It was yeah,
its own
it
death.
was in a weakened state, and then
Yes.
COVID
There we
struck the
go.
final blow.
Yeah, and they were like, "Okay, well, we're not even gonna try anymore."
COVID was the straw that broke the camel's
Yeah.
back, for lack of a better
Yes,
term. Yes, there was.
exactly.
Yeah, that's fair to say. Yeah,
Which is
it's
so unfortunate because I feel like exactly what you said, Thomas, like, Summer of Games last year was disorganized, for lack of a better word, and it didn't feel like E3 because it wasn't E3. It wasn't the big 3, Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox, like in the good old days coming together and like releasing the best content they had. It was more like, all right, we're going to release some things here, but we don't have to. This isn't like the big press conference that it used to be. So we'll just save some for later and give you like a little bit of this. And then maybe we'll plan our own conference sometime. Like it didn't feel magical like it used to be. And I feel like we're not going to get that anymore unless someone else steps up to the plate, which might be the case because there's already in talks. I know Jeff Keighley specifically, he already does at the end of the year the Game Awards, which is a quasi E3, quasi game award show. Like it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. And I feel like he in particular, because he used to actually be a part of E3 and he eventually quit and then it eventually went to shit.
right.
But I feel
Yeah.
like he in particular might get together the summer of gaming or come up with something of his own and be the force to get everyone together and have a great E3 experience again.
The Game Awards won't be a true awards show until Troy Baker is slapped by Kojima in the face
Oh
live on
god.
TV. That's when it'll be a true awards show. But
It'll be
I do.
they might do it. They might do
They
it.
might.
We'll see.
Hey, they need the ratings, but I agree with. I agree with you. I do think that he, like Jeff Keighley, like whatever that organization is, that's the best bet. But I don't know. I look at the ESA, which if anybody doesn't know, that's who does E3. Also, that's the ESRB and everything. They kind of seem like the UN. They've always kind of seemed like the UN in that, PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, or like they're all like, it's not like the ESA controls them, but they were all like kind of like the ESA is kind of like the thing that brings them all together. It
Mhm.
felt like. And it's looking more like the UN of today, where it's like, yeah, it's brought together, but not everybody has to listen. Not everybody
Yeah.
has to go on the same accord. And that's what it kind of seems like. We saw that when PlayStation said we're not doing it anymore. Like that was the first, I feel like that was the first big crack.
Well, Nintendo did it first, right?
I think Nintendo still had the directs during E3 though.
Right.
I think PlayStation was the first one to say we're not at E3.
Hmm.
And I feel like that was the big crack. And then I think COVID was the second big crack. And I think Jeff Keighley's kind of like rise as seemingly next up to try to attempt to do something, I feel like is the third big crack. And so I don't anticipate there being a E3 2023 or a 2024. I feel like it's done. Unless they can just get like let Jeff Keighley run E3. I feel like that's an
Yeah.
option too. There's not kill it, but just kind of rebrand it. I think that's an option too, but I think it's going to be dead.
Now to I think that there's still like IGN is still planning to do Summer of Gaming, if I'm not mistaken, in its place. So we're gonna have that, but it's not particular. Like I said, last year's Summer of Gaming was very disorganized, I feel like, and it didn't feel like E3. It was just a whole bunch of people releasing things whenever they wanted, and yeah, it wasn't exciting. And I guess there's only so much excitement a digital event can create in compared to a real
See,
life person.
I disagree because one of the best digital events I've ever experienced was the first DC Fandom. I don't know if y'all like did
I
that.
haven't seen it.
They really did run a good show. Like it was hours upon hours of just newly released stuff. Interviews with the creators, interviews with the stars of the movies and the stuff coming out. They even had something for Gotham Knights. Like it's like there are ways to do it. The problem is DC Fandom is run by Warner Brothers. So everything is under this umbrella.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with doing a Summer of Gaming or whatever Jeff Keighley's thing is called, like he has to negotiate these things with a lot, like besides just the main console companies, all the publishers and developers. Like that's seems like an impossible task.
Mm-hmm.
That's not asked about any other, unless I mean maybe gaming could do something like how the Academy, like the Academy of Motion Picture and Arts, like they have their own thing. Like
But what do you
everything
mean?
needs to be like with the Academy, like with the Oscars and everything. Like they're Oscar members who like, it's like an actual like kind of
Oh,
organization.
I
The
see. I
Game
see.
Awards is not that. Like it's just
Mhm.
not that at all. Like
It's just Jeff Keighley. Yeah.
it's just Jeff Keighley. I don't know who votes on him. I
He has a
assume the
team behind him,
media.
though.
I assume it's the media who votes on those
Yeah.
things.
Mhm.
Kind of
Yeah.
like a sports award.
They basically reach out to a bunch of prominent outlets and ask them to vote on
Mhm.
things.
Right. That's not how like the Academy or the Grammys do things. Like the Grammys have actual members who are like in this case would be developers, probably
Yeah.
everybody who's associated with making video games from voice actors to, effects people, like everybody, like not everybody, but there'll be specific people who are asked to be part of membership.
Yeah. That
I feel
actually
like
exists
something
already.
like that would happen.
Hmm.
What's it called?
It's called the Dice Awards.
Oh, right.
Dice is
Right.
run.
Right.
Yeah. Dice is run by an
That's
industry
true. You're right. I forgot about that.
organization called the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences, and you have to be a paying member, or you have to be an employee of an organization that is an organization member of the AIAS.
Right.
And the Dice Awards take place in Las Vegas every year. I think Las Vegas, but they're a kind of insular industry only event. I mean, like the Grammys and the Oscars and all this kind of stuff is relevant to a broad audience because it's celebrating an industry that is relevant to a broad audience in a
I
very
think
public facing way.
But I think gaming
Is,
has
and that's
gotten
like,
to that place.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's I
definitely.
feel like it's
Yeah.
just as big as those two industries.
If
It
not
definitely
bigger.
generates I think it generates more money than both of those industries. So it's like I feel like now's the time for something like dice to be more prevalent.
Mhm.
Right.
But just speaking for someone who watches the Dice Awards, I'm not really like the Dice Awards is never really exciting to me per se.
I
No,
forgot
I
about him. I totally forgot about it until Ben brought it up.
yeah,
it's like they're like the Oscars in that
yes,
it's just the awards.
exactly.
It's just the
Yeah.
awards. There's no reveals. There's no trailers. There's no fun shit. Uh, so it's a lot less interesting.
Mhm.
And as much as we say that this stuff matters to a broad audience, it's different watching movie stars get their awards
Versus
versus
developers who you
flubby
never
game
see.
developers that you've
Right.
never seen before that don't appear in
That's
their
true.
games,
Mhm.
you
That's
know?
true.
So it is a difference in kind, I think.
Yeah.
Which is
That's fair.
why
There's
which
not
is
a
why
lot of
Dice
star
does
power.
not
Yeah.
get yeah,
Mhm.
which is
Yeah.
why Dice does not get that kind of viewership, which is why you have to concoct something like the Game Awards that is this, advertiser heavy spectacle. It's
Mhm.
as much spectacle as it is a award show, if not more spectacle than award
Right.
show.
To
And it
me,
has
I
to
why
be in
come for
would
the
order to draw
spectacle
eyes.
personally.
Yeah, me too.
why wouldn't you just like combine the two then? Like to me, that like they're both kind of doing a disservice to each other.
In terms of Dice Awards?
Because the Game Awards, if there's nothing else, it gets eyes,
Mhm.
Yeah,
while the
it does.
Dice Award seems more substantial.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Um,
But I think you risk undermining the Dice Awards by making it a advertiser driven
Right.
mhm.
ad show, essentially, like which the Game Awards is. We love the ads, but game trailers are ads.
Mhm.
Um, so to make Dice into an ad show undermines the awards aspect of it, and to make the Game Awards more legitimate undermines the ad show and the
Mhm.
spectacle. So I don't think you can effectively marry them without losing some important piece of either one of them. But back to E3 real quick.
Mhm.
I'm not convinced that E3 is gonna completely die and go away. I think it is going to revert back to its prior state as a industry
Industry
trade show.
only?
Yeah,
Mm.
as an industry trade show. It is going to become less and less relevant as a public facing place to announce your upcoming slate of games, essentially. Which is like that's the thing that we all love about E3.
Exactly.
It's the hour-long press conferences where we get a glimpse of what's coming down the pike for all of our favorite publishers.
Mhm.
E3 itself is a zoo of demos and sweaty nerds bumping into each other. It's fun in a sense, but it's way less fun than the press conferences are.
Right.
It's also less practical, right? Because a lot, I mean, when you're talking about it being an industry trade show, a lot of times it's a lot of meet and greets with developers. It's like that's what primarily it's used for
It's
like like
Right.
professionals.
Yeah, well,
Ne-
it's become a lot less viable as a trade show the more it has become a public facing show
Right.
because it becomes more and more of a zoo,
Right.
and
right.
because you have less chance meetings between developers and meetings in meeting rooms where the beginnings of deals are concocted, that kind of stuff. Like that's what E3 has always been for, and it continues to be. I mean, plenty. I know of plenty of people who take regular meetings at E3 still.
Mhm.
It's the time where people from all over the world come to a centralized location and talk. So you get back in touch with lots of people that you haven't seen in a long time. People from other gaming scenes and other um, areas of the country, especially, but also of the world. It's a gathering moment for the industry and a great networking moment, a great business development moment, and a great moment to spotlight your games for consideration by developers and publishers and the press, because that was always like
Right.
the key distinguishing factor between E3 and something like, I don't know, GDC. GDC is not
Mhm.
exactly a great corollary because it exists primarily for developers. It's developers talking to developers, whereas E3 was always developers talking to the press.
Mhm. Which I would totally be down for. If of course my dreams of going to E3 are pretty much all in blown to the wind. Probably never gonna happen. But I think it would definitely be better for the show to revert to what you're talking about, Ben, which is just trade show where, developers can get together. They can still have their press conferences and all of that, and we still, get that exciting content. But it's not a deal breaker for, all these sweaty nerds like me to go to the show and, play game demos and do all of that. Because I guess, I mean, I would be perfectly fine. If I stayed at home, it still happens, and then we still do get to, still televise the press conference, but just have the industry people there. That's fine. As long as, like, I get the excitement of E3, which is all the game trailers, all the press conferences. As long as that still happens, I would be fine. But right now it seems like it's just dead and none of that is gonna happen. And I'm skeptical for it to even revert back to, the industry only kind of deal just because of how easy it was to fall apart.
Yeah, and also it was made in a time where like what you're saying, Ben, of like people meeting each other, like having these meetings, that was like a very viable tool. That was a world before,
Internet.
setting up like a private meeting that is only accessible through password, where you can have specific industry people in just a Zoom meeting. It's like it to me, like as we get further down the line, the need for it just becomes less and less so, where it's like, why are we wasting this money?
There's always going to be need because you can't discount the value of serendipity, of seeing someone you haven't seen in a long time. Oh, hey, how's it going? Oh, great. I work for X company now. Oh, really? I'm with Y company. Oh, crazy. I didn't know that. What are you guys working on? Blah 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 blah. I strike up a conversation. Let's pick this back up in 2 weeks, and I'll get my boss on the line, and we'll talk about And then this is how business deals are made, right?
Mhm.
Like this shit happens, and it only a large part of it happens because of serendipity, because of the right people in the right place at the right time.
And Ben, you could probably even talk about, like, I doubt you guys even do, as a developer yourself, or working for gaming companies. I doubt it. It's pretty hard probably to do like game demos over Zoom, over the internet, right? That
Oh
seems
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
something you would need to do like in person as well.
Yeah, it is very difficult to demo anything when you're not in person. Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
for sure. Yeah, I think the demoing aspect of E3 is more like a press thing, but there are still plenty of, like, closed doors demos, that kind of stuff. And lots of developers will do demos just for potential investors and publishing partners, that kind of thing. So yeah, the in person element of that is important. You don't want to, frankly, I don't even know how people were doing it over COVID, like distributing this stuff
Mm.
for people to play. Assume you would just have to send a whole, like, if you were doing like a PlayStation 5 game, you just have to send a dev kit and NDA at the
Ugh,
wazoo, and then have them send it back when they're done, that kind of thing. But it's a little nuts to think about.
sounds very complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just to play devil's advocate, since COVID happened, and we've seen a lot of these companies see, like, because if you had asked them if this was possible to kind of do what you just said, like send these dev kits and everything feasibly, like they would have said no beforehand, before COVID. And COVID kind of showed that it's possible to navigate in this world remotely.
Mhm.
You're right.
Do
You're
you,
right. I don't.
and with cloud streaming and
Yeah.
everything becoming more prevalent and becoming more technologically advanced, I'm saying with the future of E3, it seems like it's the purpose of it is, or at least the value of it is just less so than it was back when it was created, when it was definitely a need in the industry and definitely helped with the advancement of where video games have gone.
You're right. You're right. The value has eroded, and the value was already eroding long before COVID happened.
Right.
There was a reason. There was a reason that they started letting the public into E3, and it's because
Mm.
it was no longer viable as only a trade show.
What
They
year
made
was
it
that? Do you remember?
2017 or 18. It was right
17.
before
Okay.
I went for
It
the first
was
time.
that late. Wow.
Yeah, I
16.
remember it wasn't that long. Yeah, it was
16.
maybe like 3, 4
Yep.
E3s, right? With it. So yeah,
Mm.
I definitely understand what you're saying though in terms of the value of that serendipity. Like that definitely matters, especially when it comes to just making relationships in the industry.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see where this goes, because I don't think anybody has a pure answer on what E3 is going to look like going forward. Because it's not like they just canceled E3 and just it's done for good. It's just they're not. They said they're focusing their energy on next year's show. So you
Okay.
have to kind of take them at their word, and hopefully they have a plan. And it's not like it's some no-name organization. It's the ESA.
Mhm.
So it's not like a nothing organization. You I mean they've been through 2 very challenging years
Yeah.
of that's unprecedented. So I want to give them the benefit of the doubt cuz I don't think any of us want to see E3 gone, right? I don't.
No,
I really
I
don't
have to
like the
go
idea of
at
it
least
being
one
gone.
time.
Right. Like I feel like as gamers, I feel like E3. It's interesting for you, Ben, because you have the perspective of being on the development side and you love games.
Mhm.
So it's like I just as a gamer, I don't want to see E3 gone.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that front. I love the week of press conferences. It's
Yep.
fantastic, and game announcements.
Second only to Christmas.
Yeah.
I'd put it over Christmas, but that's just me.
Some years I absolutely agree. The year Spider-Man was announced, that was better than Christmas.
Well, here's the thing.
Absolutely.
The week of E3 usually coincides with my birthday week. So it's
Mm.
just,
Prime
you
It has a
time.
know,
different meet. It has a different meaning for you. I
it's
feel
just
it.
great. And that's not happening, so I guess I'll just cry that week instead. It's my
Well,
only
look.
option.
Well, look. I pray every night, and I will make sure E3 is in my prayers for 2023.
You and me both.
But I want to thank everybody for listening or watching the Dukes of Gaming podcast. Again, you can listen to us on your favorite podcast service. You can watch us on YouTube, watch us live on Twitch as well. Leave a like, a review, a comment, anything to help support the show. You can even email us at the real Dukes of Gaming at gmail.com. Have it read live on air. Please come next week. We're going to have some hot takes as well. So make sure you start your week right with the Dukes of Gaming. I bid thee farewell.